So let's continue with the creation of our speedometer. So since we created a material, let's now create our user interface widget. And let's select user widget. I'll name it speedometer and W for widget. Let's open it up. In here, first thing that I'm going to add is canvas. This will give us some options of relocating the speed meter. And I'm going to also add another canvas and put my image inside that canvas. So this way we can have this separate canvas and move our group of things around. So it will all make sense soon. So first let's select our image, go to brush and type speed meter here. And let's set the size to maybe 300 by 300. Now we want it to always be anchored in this angle, so or in this area. So I'm going to select the canvas, and if I click anchoring and anchor it to this side, now I can just change the position. It will all be relative to this point. Next thing that I'm going to do is just set here alignment to 1, so this will make the pivot of this image in this bottom right angle. Let's see, the next thing that we need to do would be to just reposition it a bit. So let's make it minus 100 here and then minus 100 here. Another thing that we don't want is that our material is opaque, so we want to make it transparent. So let's go inside our material and let's first change this to masked, so we have the opacity mask enabled. Let's add matte node, connect it there, and now we want to take our background image and our needle and add it together, and this should mask everything else. Now that we have this created, let's now add text. And these text blocks will be for the speed and for the gear. So if I take this text block and then resize it a bit, so let's make it maybe 12. I'm going to set justification to the middle, so it's aligned in the center. Let's move this a bit. Let's do size to content. And let's do the same thing in here. We can also anchor it at the bottom. So let's anchor it like this. And let's set 0 and 0 in here. And I'm going to do 0.5 in here, so we have it kind of centered along the pivot also. Now let's move this a bit up. Something like that. I'm going to change the text to, let's say, 35. So we can kind of see how it would look like if we had any content there. Size, maybe we want it like 40 or something. That should be fine. Now let's just round up the position so we don't have like any weird numbers. And yeah, we need anchor in here too. So we can set this to 0 and have it at the center of this. So let's also put this to maybe 2 to see how this looks. Maybe it's a bit too small. Let's do 16. And maybe we can do something like this. I'm gonna also decrease this, let's be 60. Let's do 75. Let's do 80. Something like that should be fine. Now we also want to make these variables visible. This will be important so we can change them later. Now that we have that done, let's go to the graph and let's delete everything in here except our pre-construct. Now we want to create dynamic material instance, and this is for our speed meter. This is important because we want this material to change at runtime. So for that we need to create dynamic material instance. And let's get the reference to our image and set our brush from material. I'm also just going to promote this so we can have reference to it. Let's name it Speedometer Dynamic. Let's just connect everything, and we can also connect this just for cleanliness. Now I also want event tick in here because we're going to change everything at runtime, and we want it to change always. And the changes should not be big enough where this will be too noticeable for the performance, but of course you could optimize it later. So let's first get owner, or we would need get pawn, get owning player pawn. Okay, that's what we need. So we can kind of reference our new car BP. And from here, what we need is to get our vehicle component. And now we have the reference to all of the different speeds and stuff like that from our movement component. Next thing that we want to do is let's get our speed. So we'll need our max speed, our forward speed, our miles per hour, and then get gear. So all of this we'll need in some ways to kind of figure out what is happening. First we get our forward speed and max speed, and for this we are going to basically divide each other, so you can kind of get a number between 0 and 1. This kind of normalizing RPM. We can even promote it, so let's name it RPM normalized. And this is for the reasons in here. Since we need RPM between 0 and 1, we want this always to be 0 and 1, never anything else. So this is kind of the way to get that. Let's set it in here. And the next thing would be to get our to set our scalar parameter value. And this should be RPM. And we can also connect it in here. So I could maybe for cleanliness just pull this, but you can also connect it like this. Next two things that you'll need is our text. So this is speed text, and then this is gear text. I'm just gonna rename it so it is more clear in here. So let's first get the speed text. And let's type set text. Now that we have this, let's get our, so we have this miles per hour, and this is basically where we are going to get our speed, but I want this in kilometers. So what I'm going to do is multiply this by, I think it was 1.609. I think this is the conversion to kilometers. And now I also want this number to always be positive, so I'm going to do absolute and then set it to text, and I never want it to be fractional, so let's set this to 0. Now that we have speed, let's get our gear. And our gear will be a bit more complicated to set up, but not too much. So what we need in here is that when we are above 0, it should just show this number. So it's like 0, 1, 2, 3, stuff like that. But if it's -1, which is kind of going reverse, or it is going reverse, we want this number to be R, and then if it's in the gear 0, that's neutral, we want it to be letter N. And to achieve this, we're going to use select. And Let's connect this to our text. And now we need to compare this number with -1. And this way we can have true or false. And if it's true, we can select a custom letter that we want. And the problem with just pulling this directly to select is to index is that it will go from 0 to whatever number you want, but we want to go to number before 0. So it wouldn't work like this, but if you just used branching here, it does work. And then if it's false, it could be 0 or any higher number. So we want another select and then another equal in here. But this needs to equal 0. And let's put it in here and let's put this n. So if this does equal 0, it will be n. If it's equal to -1, it will be r. And then if it's not equal to -1 or 0, it should be any higher number. And this should be it for our Speedometer widget. Now we need to activate this widget. And for this, we need to go to our car blueprints. And in here, we need event begin play. And when we start the game, we want for this to happen once, and that is create widget. And let's do Speedometer. And we need to add it to viewport. Now let's test it and see if this does work. So our gear and speed works, but our needle does not. So we are going to have to check out and see why it does not work. So it seems like our max speed is giving us 0, so that is the reason why the needle did not work. So I'm just going to delete that, and I just set a hard number for our RPM, so we can kind of see the effect. So let's test it again. Now if we drive the car, we can see our gear, speed and needle are moving according to the car.